and welcome back to the Gold Hoops and God podcast. Today, I have a great guest. I have with me Cynthia Nunez, and Cynthia is located here in Southern California. She is a first-generation academic influencer. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
And actually, Cynthia just launched a podcast with a colleague. Their podcast is called the Academic Comadres podcast. I'm sure she'll tell us a little bit more about that, and keep an eye out for that on wherever you listen to your podcast. So, all right. So let's go ahead and dive in. So, as you know, here on my podcast, I love to talk about all things faith and culture. And I really love to hear from Latinas from all different backgrounds because we are so unique and so diverse. So it's pretty fun to talk to different people. Actually, I was on an episode with someone on her podcast, and she is an Ecuadorian, but she grew up in Canada. So we're everywhere, right?
Right.
So we're going international, yes. So Cynthia, if you can share with me a little bit about your background and how you self-identify, that would be an awesome place for us to start.
Yeah, so I would say I'm a first generation Mexican American. Soy hija de inmigrantes.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest sibling in my family. So that's another
That's
another that's another
Same
box
here.
to
I'm the
open.
eldest daughter. Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely, I would say that's definitely a identity that I carry with such pride. I think along the years we've had no choice but to carry it along.
Totally.
So that's definitely it. But yeah, I've, born and raised in SoCal, don't know anything else. Definitely California girl at heart, Orange County. I've gone to school here my entire life. Going to college, I don't think I thought about, moving to another state. I couldn't imagine being apart from my family because, apart from our culture, being Mexican American, I think I think that's what makes us unique, right? We're very united to our family, and I couldn't even imagine being apart from them. So definitely family orientated. And yeah, first generation student.
Cool. That's great. So let's see. So what part of like Southern California did you grow up in? Can you share a little bit more as far as like, let's say like the demographic of your neighborhood, of your classmates, to give a little bit more of a picture of your childhood? That would be awesome.
Actually, that's a great question because I literally talked about this with a friend of mine. So I grew up predominantly in a white community. So I remember going to school, we're talking about 1999, 2000, going to school and automatically understanding that I looked very different compared to everybody else in my class. Even, the staff, the teachers, and I couldn't understand, I think at such a young age, why that was, but I understood that, hey, their skin color looks a little different.
Sure.
And, and even social class was very prominent in that community. I think now that community, that school area that I went to is predominantly now Hispanic, which is great.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Which is great. But back in the day, it wasn't for me. So, and I struggled with that. And I think, like, for example, elementary school, I do remember the principal being a Cuban American.
Oh, wow.
But you can tell she adapted, not necessarily with her heritage identity, but more of like, okay, her environmental identity, I guess you could say. Yeah. Because it was very much like my parents would try to, I guess, relate to her in some way, like, hey, you're one of us, you're one of the community. And she was like,
no. It sounds like she's like, no.
She's like, no,
Yeah.
But and so I couldn't understand that at a young age. Like, I guess I did understand it, but to a point, right? Because as a kid, you don't really acknowledge that until you grow up.
The nuances,
Yeah. And like I said, social class, my parents, my dad specifically was working 2 to 3 jobs at a time just to make sure we were middle class. And I guess you could say lower middle class. And I'm not talking about like gated community or anything like that, but we were safe and comfortable.
Right.
And that goes to say, compared to maybe other classmates who were also Hispanic and Latino that maybe didn't have the best means to relate to that, I guess you could say. I do remember a specific classmate who was also hija de papás mexicanos. but she didn't flaunt it, nor did she. I don't know, maybe, I mean, we're kids, so it's like I can't really say what she was feeling or what she was.
It's hard to tell. Like,
it's hard to tell, but you can tell social class was there because she wore the best clothes. Like, she wore clothes from the mall. Like, while over here I was wearing clothes from the swap meet, which I had, no issue at the time. But I think as a kid, you're like, oh, like, why can't I wear that stuff? Like, why can't I wear what she's wearing?
Yes.
So it was hard. It was definitely hard. And I think school, academically was where I mostly started to notice as I went to elementary school, middle school, and especially high school. High school was probably the most that stuck to me, where I was like, wow, like, I am definitely not white. I am definitely just living here because, my parents are working very hard and they think like they're safe here. My kids are safe. So it was just my sister and I growing up. And just like a quick story with my sister, she actually got held back in kindergarten because she spoke 2 languages.
Oh my gosh.
So, so the reason was, long story short, my mom took her to the pediatrician because her teacher said she's not speaking at school. She's
language
not
development.
Saying good morning to the class, language development. Yeah. And right off, she kind of pointed fingers at my parents and said, it's because you're confusing her.
Oh, no.
You're speaking.
It's actually
Spanish
not a thing. Like, they've shown now, like, through studies and stuff, like, that confusion concept is not a thing. Children can actually learn 2 languages simultaneously pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so with that, my mom was like, okay, like, let me challenge that. So we went to a pediatrician who, mind you, is white. And he said, they told you that? Here, give me this piece of paper. And he wrote like a letter. My mom said she couldn't see what he wrote because he put it in an envelope and sealed it. He said, here, give this to the principal, give this to the office staff, whoever you need to give it to, and let me know what they say. So I think the following day they had like a parent teacher
parent-teacher meeting or something. Yeah.
Something like that, kind of to discuss the this decision. So my mom handed the letter, and they opened it and they were whispering. My mom remembers, like, they were in the corner just kind of like whispering, like, what's going on? Yeah. They come back and they say, we're so sorry. There was a misunderstanding. She's still going to get held back, but because she wasn't, we're worried that she's going to develop a stutter or she's not speaking, but it has nothing to do with her speaking 2 languages. And my mom's like, okay. That's fine. And until this day, my mom said, like, she had no idea what the pediatrician wrote, but he pretty much, from what we gathered, it was no. Like, speaking 2 languages is not an issue. Like, the staff, the school staff is, they have no idea what they're saying. I'm a doctor. I think I know.
Totally. So, yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. Like, I've heard people have, like, mixed experience in terms of Spanish, right? It's a thing. Some families decided not to teach their children Spanish because of the pushback, because of the racism, because of all that. Other families wanted to continue the tradition and teach their children Spanish. A lot of different variations, a lot of different stories, but it's true. Like, people have these experiences. I know on my mom's side, I think some of her siblings were basically reprimanded in school here in LA for speaking Spanish, back when you could hit a child in school, right? And so it's true. Like, it's super interesting. Yeah, all those questions about school, things like that, it is super interesting. So I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I'm very grateful that I went to private schools. My parents sacrificed a lot to be able to send me. However, it was very clear to me that I was a scholarship kid. I worked in the library. I helped in the cafeteria. My clothes were, like you're mentioning, my clothes were not what other kids had. When it went to, like, come over to the sleepover, come, like, let's go do this, let's go do that. Well, these houses were in the Hollywood Hills and Bel Air, and, their parents were lawyers, their parents were doctors. Like actors, things like that. And I was like, whoa, this is different. This is not my humble background, right? So it's fascinating. It's true, but I don't know. It's I feel like those moments, they shape us. You know, they really do shape us as a person. So I appreciate you sharing. Definitely.
Yeah. And, kind of continuing with the reason why I got into academia in the first place was because I was still growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood. I went to a predominantly white high school.
Mm.
And the majority of us, we were majority, but we were, I guess you could say, put in a box, especially in this community. We were already put in a box. My school counselor, I'm not kidding, I probably saw her maybe 3 times the entire 4 years I was there.
Right.
And at the time, I think I knew I wanted to go to college. Like, I knew, like, okay, I'm going to continue my education because this is what I have to do. Like, this is just part of life. I didn't really see it at the time as like, I'm going to be something great. Like, I want to do something with my life and get this degree. And I wish back then somebody really noticed me. I really wish someone cared.
Yeah.
Because my counselor was kind of, I'm not kidding, she automatically enrolled me in like what we knew it as Spanish for Spanish speakers, based on this little check mark box that we put when we apply, Hispanic or Latino, right? And this class was extremely hard because imagine like English grammar, but for Spanish speakers.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So it was super hard. I honestly dropped out of it because I was like, I can't. And the instructor was white.
Oh, no.
It was like, what?
I mean, not that it can, right? Not that, whatever, right? People learn languages, people can teach, they're fluent, good for them. But that's really fascinating. Yeah.
It was just insane. And so I already felt like, you didn't even ask me if I wanted to go to this class. Like,
yeah.
Why were you putting me in this box? And so I remember my junior year, like, that's kind of when you start applying for, colleges and stuff. Right. And I think majority of us were already thinking we're going to community college, right? Because we don't have a shot to go into a 4-year after high school. Like, I already was, I guess, unknowingly putting myself in a box because I was already put in one.
Taking in the negativity or taking in the doubt from others. Exactly. Oh, man.
So, the counselor was kind of like, oh, okay, you're going to go to Saddleback College, right? And I was like, yeah, and at the time I didn't really think about it because I'm like, right, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, this
what everyone kind of, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like once I graduated, I think I was like, had that counselor or just any other counselor just noticed me and said like, you have potential. Like, that doesn't define you. Like your ethnicity, your race, your color of your skin doesn't define like who your parents are. It doesn't define you. Like you are more capable of doing so much more. And it really engraved in me now going into college. And I was like, wow, had I had a shot, had I had someone support and believe in me, I would have maybe done a different path. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Cause now I'm like, maybe I would have not been here like as I am now, but it really, I felt like I really had to cross some barriers and systemic barriers, I guess you could say, to really, I guess, self-identify correctly, or not correctly, I don't want to say correctly, but I self-identify in the way that really suits me because growing up, like I said, it was just very hard to know that, like, my parents are hardworking, my parents are working class, I don't have the best clothes, but my parents are trying. They're surviving.
Working hard, yeah.
And especially with the mindset of immigrants, right? Like you save a little bit because you want that little bit to last. And I think as the eldest sibling, that's always been engraved in me. So as I went to college, I was like, I have to force myself. I have to work twice as hard because, half of the other people that I went to high school didn't have to, but I have to. Yeah. How was that fair?
Totally. If I'm being very honest, and I don't know if I've ever said this like publicly, but why not? I do feel that if I had a little bit more support and encouragement from my math and science teachers earlier on, I probably would have pursued medical school down the line.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Yeah. And why do I say that? Because even though I could handle all the writing and all that kind of part of it, I know how to study, I know how to write and all those kind of things, I have always felt less capable or, you know, even I've felt a little bit dumb when it came to like geometry, algebra 2, all those things, you know, organic chemistry. Hell no, right? And a lot of, right, I understand that it's scary for a lot of people and people push past it, et cetera, et cetera. But like you're saying, it kind of discourages you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did feel discouraged, so much so where I'm like, why am I going to even, I'm not even going to bother. You know, it's like, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to bother like doing something like that for college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let me kind of, I'll be honest, let me kind of stay more in my comfort zone and
Yep.
do Spanish. Let me get my bachelor's in Spanish or something, right? But anyway, it's true because that sets the tone. And I remember so distinctly my elementary school in 5th and 6th grade, we went from, you know, having one teacher to having this other teacher who was kind of notorious for being like a grumpy, kind of difficult man.
Oh, yeah.
And sure enough, right? Sure enough, that was a very difficult time. I was like, man, what if I had had somebody else? You know, like what if I had had like a better teacher back then? Would I have felt like the encouragement and motivation to keep going? Who knows, right? We can't go back in time, right? You know, we can't, but I've thought about that, like, that really did shape me as far as like math and science. It's STEM, right? We hear about STEM, everything STEM now. That you know, that was not really the case in my reality. So yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is great. This is super fascinating conversation, Cynthia. So one of the other topics that I like to cover in each episode of the podcast is about faith. And whenever I mention faith, I mean it in a super broad way because I understand that, you know, some of us grew up in religious households, some of us did not. Some folks were more exposed to what we would call like curanderismo, spiritual practices, tarot, you know, what have you. And so I would love to hear from you kind of like what your experiences have been, and if you have any spiritual practices right now that you would feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, so I would say faith and spirituality has always been present in my life. Maybe not, I wouldn't say like religion. I wouldn't say I grew up religiously Catholic as, you know, a Mexican American. And the reason is because my mom wasn't, I don't think she was tied to her spirituality and faith growing up, and it kind of speared into adulthood. Whereas my father was kind of the same. Like he knows, like, you know, there's a God, there's someone bigger and greater than us. But he was very much like, you know, you're not a good person. It doesn't, or a good person isn't defined by going to church every day, etc.
That's true, right?
Which is true. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
It definitely makes sense because I think growing up as like a traditional Mexican Catholic, you kind of grow up to know or to see and witness like, oh, a good person goes to church, a good person is conservative, a good person is da 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 da. So, you know, my dad very much kind of broke that in our family and was like, no, that doesn't define you. That doesn't make you a good person. You know, bad people still go to church. So, you know, and again, you know, at the end of the day, he said good or bad, we all need faith in our lives. And so I think growing up, he was the one who taught us to pray and like, you know, pray to the saint, pray to, you know, Virgin Mary. And I think we didn't, and it's funny because my sister and I just talked about this. I was like, we never really questioned, like, are you sure? Like, are you sure we're supposed to be doing this? Like,
you trust. I mean, it makes sense. Like, you would trust your parents and, you know, what they're sharing with you, that would be something helpful. It's not going to be something that hurts you, right? Like, I think that's kind of a general sentiment as far as like why people expose their children to religion or faith in the first place. So,
yeah. And I think, you know, my sister and I really appreciated my dad kind of introducing it that way because my mom didn't really talk about it. She never really opened up and like as to why. And I don't think we really questioned it because we were like, well, you know, she's on her own time. She's not there yet. Like she will open up eventually. And, you know, but my understanding of faith has shifted as I grew up. Because my mom, I remember growing up, we would have to do our baptism, our communion, etc. And my mom was like, I'm done. Like, you guys, you know, I did my job as a mother. You decide what you want to do. And I always thought that was so weird. I was like, what do you mean you're done? And she was like, Yeah, I did my duty as a mom, as like, as a traditional Mexican woman. So you would say to bring this upon my children. And I just thought that was the oddest thing. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And I don't
That's
know.
so interesting. That's super interesting.
It's super interesting until this day. Like I mean, my mom is now at a better place with faith in God, I would say, but it only occurred after a family trauma event that happened in our family. So long story short, my father had an accident in 2018 that left him in a coma. He's now physically and mentally disabled.
Oh my goodness.
So he almost didn't make it. And I think my mom was like, okay, like everybody was telling us like he wasn't going to make it, and he did. Like God was definitely present here. And I think, again, my understanding shifted because I'm like, why is it that people have to believe when something occurs?
Yes.
So that was
we can get into yes. We're gonna get into that. I think that's super important. So we're gonna get into that. That's super important to talk about.
I think that was like very open, like it opened my eyes for sure, because I was like, like kind of scratching my head, like this is interesting. Like my mom, an adult, a grown up, I would say, like in my eyes, like
sure,
is this normal? Like is this? I mean, to each their own, of course. Where my dad has always never really questioned it. He's just like, God is everywhere. We don't have to be here.
Yeah.
And again, like I like we can go on about religion and what that organized religion looks like.
Right.
And my partner, I dare I say it, my partner is actually atheist.
Oh, interesting.
And we're both very respectful of each other's beliefs, I guess you could say. Perspectives. And I'm not the type of person that's like, why don't you believe in God? Maybe in the beginning, obviously dating, I did ask him, like, why? Just curious, like, well, why? Yeah. And he kind of said something similar. He said, I pray and I ask and nothing happens. And I was like,
interesting.
But why does God have to do something great for you to believe?
For you to believe it. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah. Oh my gosh. I have so much to say.
Yeah. So and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Other times it's just my spirituality is about trust and trusting and timing and purpose and just feeling something greater than myself.
Absolutely.
If God is the woman or a man, it doesn't matter. They're present. And that's kind of where I stand with me, myself is where I stand with that.
Yeah. As a person. Beautiful. I love that. That's incredible. Yeah. It is fascinating. I don't know. And thank you for sharing that. I know it's quite personal, and I'm sorry that your family had to go through all of that, because that's a very scary, traumatic event, certainly. Faith is interesting. Faith is fascinating. Human beings are fascinating because it's true, right? Most people feel that way, right? They don't really believe until something really bad has happened or something really difficult has happened, right? Again, God forbid, somebody gets a diagnosis about cancer, somebody is like in critical condition, as kind of, on the spectrum of things, a student trying to pass a class, then the prayers come. We're so interested, human beings are funny like that, right? Like all of a sudden, when those difficult, tragic moments happen, somebody who is very comfortable sort of dismissing God or not believing in anything, it's possible, it's possible that those moments will prompt someone to start praying, right? Again, this is an observation. It's not judgment. It's an observation about how people behave and how we relate to faith, if you will. Okay.
Right.
But it's interesting. So like very similar, I was raised Catholic, and, I've gone to Catholic school. I've had my moments, I'm not going to pretend. Like I've had my moments of doubt. I've had my moments of difficulty. I've explored other religions, to be honest, but perhaps it's the cultural tie, right? Perhaps it's a cultural tie as a Latina that brings me kind of back into Roman Catholicism. And I say this all the time. the church as an institution has issues, and I get that, right? Like, I would
100%.
never deny it. I would never say otherwise. There are definitely issues there. However, I'm not going to let the institutional issues stand between me and my faith and me and God, right? Like, that's a separate thing. Okay. And it's so fascinating. Like, the last couple of years, so many things have happened, especially with COVID, all kinds of things. And I swear, like, there have been events in my life that I can truly say I should not have survived. You know what I mean? Like, just like the accident, like all kinds of things, car accidents, mental health breakdowns, just, I mean, I can't even like name them all. But there were moments where I'm like, I know that I know, right? People will say, like, I know that I know that I know it was God that protected me and got me through that situation, because there's no way, like, there's no way I would have survived otherwise. And so, yeah, I feel like faith is one of those things that it has to almost be felt or experienced, you know? In other words, like, it's one thing to talk about it with people, encourage them to read certain things, like, that's all well and good. But I really believe that it's almost like until it happens to you, right? It's almost until like something changes for you as a person. And it can be something like small. I don't know. You know, it can be something small. It doesn't have to be overly dramatic. But that's when it clicks, you know, that's when it clicks. I also notice a lot of times when people have children, the miracle of life, that process, something shifts, something clicks to where they're like, oh, wow, maybe there is more to this whole life thing than I thought. So, you know, yeah, we're all on this journey. And even to this day, like, there are questions I have, right? Like, I know one day when it's my my time to be on the other side, it's like, I have questions. Like, there's certain things I still,
like, wait a minute.
it's true. I feel like that's, you know, it's true. Like, there are things that I have come to accept that I will not understand. Like, I'm not meant to understand in this life all the details of XYZ. Like, it's just not, you know, and being okay with that, right? Being okay with that uncertainty and that mystery. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and kind of like going back to what you were saying, you know, you explored other religions and you kind of ultimately come back to, you know, being a Catholic. And I feel like that, again, that has a lot to do with our cultural identity. Like, it's familiar. Sure. That's all we can really identify with, because my sister kind of did something similar where she was kind of exploring Christianity. And she was like, now I have more questions.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I felt like we always tend to come back to something more familiar, and especially like I didn't necessarily have that experience where I was like, maybe I want to explore different ones, just because I'm like, I think I'm too afraid to branch out and have more questions, because and that's just an ultimate fear, my personal fear, because I'm like, if I'm already having doubts myself, I think I'm just going to keep them to myself in this category. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but okay, I'm like, should I branch out? Like, should I question more things? You know, we can go on and on about this.
Yeah. I feel like there's not necessarily like a should or should not. And I say that because I really believe, like, every human being we're on our own path. You know what I mean? Like, every human being has their own, dare I say, destiny or road to walk, you know, journey, whatever kind of language we want to use. But it's true. I mean, we find our way in the timing that we need to find it, I think. So yeah, it's cool though. Yeah, religion is fascinating. Religion is, I think it's so interesting. Cool. Oh my gosh, this is super great. So as we're kind of wrapping up our conversation, so this is my favorite topic or question that I ask on the podcast. I have noticed that so many of us, sure enough, particularly eldest daughters, a lot of us had to grow up very fast, and we had a lot of responsibility from a very young age. And so, you know, I'll speak for myself personally. I've tried to do a lot of inner child healing, a lot of that inner work through therapy and things like that, to try to, you know, reconnect with my inner child and do things that make my inner child happy. And so I would love to hear from you as far as what advice you would give inner, your inner child, or even if you want to kind of tackle the question in a more broad sense, like what advice would you give young Latinas today? Right now there's so much, clearly there's so much happening in the world. I really do feel for young people. I think it's a very scary time in a lot of ways. And so if there's any advice that you would like to share on, on any of those topics, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, kind of going based off of what's occurring, in the world right now in our community. I think what I value most about being Latina is the deep sense of comunidad and the resilience that runs through everything we do. I feel like, especially as the eldest sibling, we carry a lot of generations of strength, and it's whether it's through language, food, just in general, like as our community, we kind of show up for each other. Yes. And I value that duality of our culture for sure. How much we laugh, how we're loud, we live hard, we still fight for justice. And then it's all in the same breath, right? We all do that. So it's a powerful identity that kind of grounds me and keeps me pushing forward. But as the eldest sibling, in my own sense, in my family, I think it took me a really long time to understand why I felt the way I felt growing up. I think I had a lot of frustration and anger and maybe resentment, dare I say, towards my parents sometimes, my mother especially.
I get it.
Because, I didn't understand at the time, my parents were just surviving, they're trying their best. And I, being the child that I was, like, I'm just a kid. Like, I shouldn't have to take care of my younger sibling. I shouldn't have to cook and, be by myself with her and entertain a child when I'm a child myself. So I think I kind of held on to that. And then even now, like, I'm almost 30 years old and I no longer live at home, but there's still that like unsaid, unfiltered duty that I have towards my family. Sure. Exactly. Expectations. Because my mom is now more vocal about it, I think I would say. Again, especially now that my dad's disabled, there's kind of like this obligation that I have to caretake for my parents, even though I've, took care of them pretty much my entire life up until I moved out when I was 27. I was 27 when I moved out. So it wasn't that long ago. But I think a lot of it had to do with like, they're very dependent of me. I'm very dependent on them. I'm not ever going to say that I'm not dependent on my family. And so there's a lot of, I think, understanding that I wish as a kid that I would tell my inner child, like, it's okay. Take a breath. I think I've come to terms to accept it. And I think for the longest time I didn't. I think it was more like, but why? But why do I have to be okay with this? Like, why do I have to do
how
this?
come? Yeah, exactly. Why? How come? Exactly. Right.
And so I think I would tell my inner child now, like, it's okay. Just we will come to terms to accept it and embrace it, because that's all we can really do. I embrace this role of the third parent, the oldest sibling, the other adult in the family, whether I'm home or not home. I have this responsibility that I now carry and embrace it, because I think as you grow up, you're kind of like, I remember me growing up, my mom would tell me like, here, do this, do that. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember my mom kind of yelling at me like, why aren't you doing it right? And I'm just like, oh my God. My mom was super hard on me because she's the eldest. And her mom was the
Your
eldest.
mom's the eldest too,
So it's like, I've come from generations of eldest sisters. With, I think even my great grandmother was an eldest sibling. So it's just in my blood at this point. It's made for me. Literally, it's made for me. I was born to be this eldest sibling. So, I think I just embraced it because I think that resentment with my mom was like, why? She's like, you know what? I didn't get the opportunity to ask why. I just took it.
I just did it.
I just did it. And I was like, whoa, like,
that's hard.
it's hard because I'm just like, well, okay, I can't even compare. Not even compare, relate to my mom other than we're oldest siblings. She grew up in
Mm,
Mexico. She grew up
mm,
in a different era.
yeah,
I'm growing up
a
with
different world.
much different world. I grew up
Yeah,
with much more opportunities, perhaps, as a Mexican American, as a first
yeah,
gen.
yeah,
Um, and I acknowledge the opportunities that I'm given thanks to my parents' sacrifices.
totally. Yeah.
And I think I'm, especially now, I'm trying to put that on my younger sister, because I
Mm,
think what we're going through with my youngest sister is, as the oldest sibling, we're the protectors, right? We're the
mhm,
protectors. We shield.
yeah.
And now I see that my sister is kind of disconnecting and not acknowledging the sacrifices that was done in our family or in our
Yeah.
generations. So I kind
Right.
of want to reel her back in, and I'm like, here I go, like not
Yeah.
even thinking that this is my duty, but I'm like automatically just putting myself in this
Autopilot. Yeah.
autopilot.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. And my partner's the youngest in his family, and
Oh,
him and I are just like, you don't get it. Like, I have this obligation. It's my duty. And he's just like, relax. Like, they will be fine. And I'm like, no, you
mm,
don't get it. And
wow.
again, I would want to tell my younger self, like, it's okay. Just let go and live. Like,
They'll be
literally,
okay.
it'll be okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm also an eldest daughter. So is it just you and your sister? Is it just the two of you?
Just the two of us.
Okay. So similar. I'm the eldest daughter, and then I have a younger brother he's quite a bit younger than me, actually. Um, and I resonate in so many ways, in so many ways. And it's tough. I mean, I think that it's a mixed bag, right? Like there's so many things that I appreciate about the way that I was raised and the lessons that I've learned and the
Mm-hmm.
person I've become. And at the same time, I'm like, man, y'all, trauma. The generational
It's
the
real.
generational trauma, like ancestral trauma, all that. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, I recognize all the things that my parents went through respectively, in their childhood's homes and how that led them to be the way how they are, right? It's generational, and all we can do is like begin to be aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to, it may sound cliche, but it's true, to try to break the cycle,
Yeah.
do it differently. Do it differently. It's funny, like so there was something that came up recently, and I told my brother, I'm like, look, I'm like, this is a pattern with the men. You break the cycle, bro. Break the cycle. He's like, I know. It was something particular about, like, had to do with uh, the way that Latin American men can be.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah. I hear ya.
but yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, it's a process. It's a process. The guilt is real. The guilt is real. And finding ways, yeah, it's true, like I think a big part of it is like being there for family while also drawing those boundaries. I know boundaries has become the buzzword,
Oh my gosh.
boundaries is a buzzword right now,
Yeah.
but they're important, but they're very relevant, they're very important, and just kind of like making those decisions to be like, you know what, I'm not available for that. You know what, I'm not going to drop everything and spend my entire Saturday doing XYZ over there today. Like I had other plans, right? Yeah. It
Yeah,
can be
yeah.
tough though. It can definitely be hard.
It is. And I
And I love
think
what you said. Like I love what you shared.
piggybacking to what you were saying with the,
Mhm,
generational guilt, I definitely felt that once I moved out, because even though
mhm,
I tried to do everything, I guess, in order, where I was talking to my parents, I was talking to my sister, I'm like, this is what's happening. Like,
mhm.
I'm passing on the torch to my sister now. Like, she will
Yeah.
be your point of contact now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm not trying to say like, hey, like, don't contact me. I'm just saying like, this is the boundary. And it was really hard. And I think one time, I remember the first couple of days I was away from my family, I was like nonstop crying, because I felt it heavy. I felt it very heavy. And it's hard, because it's like I don't think, growing up, for me personally, and and chime in if you relate to this,
Mhm.
but I felt that like I didn't understand what boundaries were. Like I didn't know it was I didn't know the term necessarily. I didn't know that
Right.
was a thing. And I think when you grow up, you're like, okay, like I wish they could just leave me alone. Like I wish like they could respect my privacy. But I didn't know boundary was the term for it until I was older in high school. And, you know, I was like bringing it up, boundaries. And now I don't know why parents kind of feel defensive. Like, what is boundary?
They sure do.
Like, just like, why don't you want to be with your family?
It's a deep offense. It's like it's
huge.
Yeah, it really is like a deep offense. And it's like, how dare you like say no to me?
Yeah. And I was just like, whoa, like, wait, I wasn't trying to open this can of worms. Like, I was just trying to like vocalize. Like,
I'm just trying to live. Yeah.
I'm just trying to live and be an adult here. Like, I don't know. I'm like, it's just crazy too, because my parents were helicopter parents for sure. And my inner child was definitely like broken in some pieces growing up. And I didn't have a normal childhood because I had to be a caretaker so young. Wow. And so I'm like, I need to leave the house because not that it's like, I mean, of course I wanted to, but I mean, if I could have it, if there was boundaries and, you know, it was a different set of rules and everything.
You need your time. Like,
of course. And, and to know that like, you know, my parents are getting older as well. And it breaks my heart, but it's like, eventually I'm going to have to come back in a few years and caretake for them. And it's like, in the meantime, like, this is just my role. Like, I'm just meant to be this caretaker. And yes, absolutely. I am. I embrace it. This was the role that was given to me. I was brought up this way and there's nothing more I can do but to take it. It is what it is.
Yeah. You know, I see. Oh gosh, I feel like this is, I'm going to be very honest. I feel like this is such a culturally ingrained thing.
It is.
You know, it is. And it's, again, on one hand, it's very beautiful. On the other hand, like I'm a little bit of a wild card, right? Like I have gotten to the point where like I do what I want. Like, like seriously. I don't know if it's because I'm an Aries. I don't know if it's like, you know, what is it? What do they say? Like, women shouldn't be too educated because then they start thinking thoughts, right? Yes. You know, like they start having a mind of their own. Yeah, God forbid you start having a mind of your own. But yeah, like I definitely now I speak up. You know what I mean? Like now I clap back, I speak up. Not everyone's a fan of that, but hey. But one of the things is like, you know, yeah, it's tough. It is tough because like, for example, let's say, you know, let's say it was somebody's dream. They're like, oh, I've always wanted to live in Miami, da 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 da, or you know, but they live, I don't know, here in California, whatever. The people will not, in other words, the people will like not follow their dream or not go do that. They won't move because they're more concerned and basically like held back by being close by to family. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. It's sensitive. It's for sure sensitive. Yeah, I don't know. For me right now, I'm just like, life is so short, you know, like life is so short. Life goes by in a flash. And sometimes, this too, I've come to realize, even when I'm following the program, quote unquote, even when I'm being good, quote unquote, growing up, right? Even when I was being good, following the program, you know, listening, not pushing back, not speaking, no, you know, all that, it still didn't go well for me. Yeah. If that makes sense, right? Yeah. Like that still didn't work out well. And so it's like, well, what the hell? Let me be bad. And by bad, quote unquote, by bad, I mean like just living life on my own terms.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's always that saying, like, you know, you try to plan things and it never goes the way you want it to.
Right.
Because I think it comes to a point where it's like, even if you do things right, whether you could still be rejected, you could be accepted. It doesn't even matter at this point.
The people pleasing, it's no good.
And I think it's the hardest to, especially as eldest. It's a hard lesson, especially as eldest daughters. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Like even now, like I said, I'm almost 30, and I'm still like going into my 30s, and I'm still doing it from time to time. Yeah. And it's just hard because again, it's like a cultural thing that I think we're just assimilated into. Yes. Especially women, Hispanic women, you know, and it's really hard, especially in this, you know, in this world, in this modern time, where Latinas are rising up a lot more now. And it's kind of like you mentioned, you speak up as women, you speak up, we're overly educated, we're speaking up. Oh, well, she's, she's this type of person. She's bossy. She's whatever. Yeah, it's like we can never win. So let's just win.
We can't win for trying. Exactly. We can't win for trying. It's like, well, let me make myself happy then. It's true. So thank you so much for sharing everything you shared on this episode. This was fantastic. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for, making that decision and having like your own space and stuff like that. Like, that's awesome. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Yay. So Sid, if people wanted to either reach out to you or to start listening to the Academic Comadres podcast, tell us where to find you. And when's the first episode available?
So the first episode is still in the works. So we're still trying to decide because my co-host Ruby, she is amazing. We actually met during our on graduation, like crazy enough.
Oh, wow.
On graduation. She's a STEM student and I am a social science student. So it's like we could have never crossed paths anyways. So we're in two different sciences. But she's actually at Northwestern Chicago. Wow. So we're kind of just, I think the time difference, me being here in SoCal is a little, we just got to agree with the time. We did post our trailer yesterday. So kind of a sneak peek of what's to expect and what we want to talk about. We really came together to just kind of going back to what I said, having advice, as two academic students in two different fields. We, even though we're both Latinas, we definitely grew up differently. And so we kind of want to share that experiences and really relate to our community. So our podcast is Academic Comadres. We kind of really wanted to relate to the cheeseman and the tea and very casual. So we want it to be very, just like drinking and sipping back and just chilling. Nothing too formal, of course. But yeah, we're available on Spotify. Like I said, the trailer just came out yesterday, so we're really excited for that. Hopefully the new episode will come out in the next couple of weeks. And then my Instagram, you can find me at Academic Chola with 2 A's at the end. There I'm kind of just more sharing my own experiences, also giving advice, really centering on our community. Like I said, really trying to be there because I feel like the internet and social media has really, branched out so much since growing up. So it's great to have this as a tool and a resource because I wish going to college and going to high school, I had something like this and seeing really people that look like me because I didn't have that growing up. So really wanted to be there for our community and students to really, encourage them and not have them discouraged. And, we're more than just a statistic for sure in education. So really trying to emphasize that in our page. So yeah, you can find me at Academic Chola with 2 A's at the end.
Perfect.
And watch us at Spotify or listen to us on Spotify at Academic Comadres with Ruby.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Folks, thank you for listening. This was the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra. You can find this podcast everywhere you listen to your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart, and all the rest. The video of the interviews are available on YouTube every Wednesday. New episodes come out on Wednesdays, and you can find me online, goldhoops_God on Instagram. And thanks so much for listening. Please reach out, like, share, and subscribe, and have a good one. Thank you again, Sid. Bye. Thank you.